My name is Nalani Maheswaran.
And I'm Priya Gadhe. We're co-chairs of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Board.
In a moment, the Beaverton and Hillsborough Police Departments will post the colors.
When the audience hears the command, "Present arms," people in uniforms will perform a military salute. People not in uniforms will place their hand over their hearts.
Please rise for the posting of the colors.
Detail. Halt. Left. Face. Honor guard. Uniform personnel. Present. Arms. Order. Arms. Ready? Post. Ready? Dress. Recover. Right? Face. Forward. March.
As aspiring women leaders, we're grateful to live in a part of a country where seeing women in leadership is not a rarity.
Our city is fortunate to have strong female leaders in all levels of government, setting an example of what is possible for all of us.
Our next speaker has represented our community for 18 years, passionately forwarding the causes of climate justice, education, healthcare, among other causes important to Beavertonians at both the state and federal levels.
It is our pleasure to introduce the U.S. Representative for Oregon's 1st Congressional District, Congresswoman Suzanne Bonamici.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone, to the beautiful Patricia Research Center. Thank you. Thank you to the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council as well. This Youth Advisory Board, they're the future leaders. So thank you for all your work advising the mayor. Thank you to Oregon Governor Tina Kotek for joining us today. We know the governor has many places she could be, and we're really grateful she's with us in Beaverton tonight. So Thank you, Governor. When I'm home in Oregon, where I'll be back in DC tomorrow, but here I am in Oregon. My office is right here at the Beaverton Round, and I really appreciate the time I spend here in Beaverton, where I get lots of good ideas, and I take those good ideas back to Washington, D.C. with me. And when I think about Beaverton, I represent all of Northwest Oregon, a sixth of the state, but Beaverton to me means community. It means diversity, creativity, innovation, and it's a rapidly growing community, as we know, leaning into all the opportunities that are there. Like, look at this beautiful Patricia Research Center for the Arts, right? Amazing, amazing place. I think about the city's work, the mayor and the city working like throughout the pandemic, and now Beaverton, it is a dining destination, right? So many opportunities here. And I partner with the mayor, particularly on opportunities for federal resources, programs, and funding. Thrilled to be able to bring $4 million to the Beaverton Loop Project. Improving the community. I helped with the nonprofit incubator where new ideas are growing. Really excited about that. And you know, this mayor is always thinking ahead, right? Very forward-looking. We just had a wonderful session on the future of work that I was able to attend with the mayor, and it was just amazing to hear about, you know, the opportunities and how we look at housing and infrastructure and resources for that. So I'm very excited to hear more about the state of the city in just a moment. So, and I'm going to hear about that from someone I'm honored to call a colleague and a friend. Our Beaverton Mayor, Lacey Beatty, she's a veteran and she's a mom, and that means she knows how to get really hard stuff done, right? And she is truly a real believer in Beaverton and the potential for Beaverton and all of the opportunities. So it's my honor to introduce to you Mayor of Beaverton, Lacey Beatty. Please give her a very warm welcome.
Good evening, Beaverton. Welcome to this year's State of the City. Before I started talking, I just wanted to take a minute and just think about my almost 40-year-old self not recognizing where my 20-year-old self would think I would be, and this is such a wonderful start to our State of the City. We have so many elected officials here, and I want you to know who's here, and when I call your name, I'd like you to stand up and wave. Beaverton is honored that the governor, who we call at the Beatty House the commander-in-chief, that Governor Kotek has joined us this evening. And of course, my friend, the congresswoman who just introduced me. The Consulate of Mexico and his deputy is also here. And State Representative Lisa Reynolds has joined us. The Washington County Chair, Chair Harrington. Commissioner Fye is also with us this evening. Washington County's new sheriff, Sheriff Massey, is with us as well. And of course, Beaverton's police chief, Chief Jepson. THPRD President Alfredo Moreno. Board members Felicita Monteblanco and Miles Pasoledos. School Board Chair Dr. Karen Perez. Also joined School Board member Dr. Melissa Potter. And School Board member Susan Greenberg. And of course, my colleagues on the City Council, Council President Kimmy, Councilor Duggar, Councilor Hartmeyer-Prigg, Counselor Hassan, Counselor Teeter, and Counselor Tivnon. And of course, you probably hear him in the front row, my husband, the first gentleman of Beaverton, Major Beatty. The Vice Mayor of Beaverton, Ayla Ray. And the one making all the noise for mommy, the Vice Mayor, Kyra. All right. Well, Beaverton is a world-class city. And we'll go ahead and let you, thanks. It's a little bit past her bedtime, but I wanted to make sure that she was here. Beaverton competes on a world stage. And what I want you to expect tonight is that each year the Beaverton City Council comes together and sets our goals. And tonight we're going to hear a little bit about the progress that we made on those goals. And this is important because it sets the track for the city and directs the city manager on what the council wants to see and accomplish this year. So tonight we're going to hear a lot about that. And I want you to know that we are training to be the best. A lot of you might know me from coaching your daughters at Beaverton High School, or perhaps my days coaching NCAA lacrosse. But what people really know about me in my core is that I'm an athlete and a competitor. From my early days in the Army to now, as an adult athlete, I like to compete in Spartan races. If you don't know what a Spartan race is, it's a 10 to 15 mile mud race that you go into the middle of nowhere to do. And if I'm being quite honest, it's the best training for being a mayor. People are screaming at you, throwing mud, you're covered. You don't think you could accomplish the obstacle. People watch you fail down the other side, but there's always people around to encourage you, always around to help you figure out how to get to the next goal, how to get over the wall. And when I miss the mark, I go home and train. And that's what's really important. And if I take that same goal and that same lens as the coach of Beaverton, as I do for training for races, this is what I think Beaverton needs to do to get to the next level. And if I look at it through that coaching lens, here's what I see. Beaverton, the land is incredible. The natural beauty, the pristine water, and the thriving ecosystem. And it's full of passionate people and enterprising businesses and a strong community spirit. But how do we go from the people to the infrastructure? Or to how do we go to thriving? What do we do in the in-between? It's about the infrastructure. We want to make sure that our infrastructure reflects the aspirations of our city, that it's safe and sustainable, and most importantly, resilient. So we're safeguarding our present while securing our prosperous future for generations to come. To hear more, I'm going to pass the mic to my colleague in the field, Kevin Teeter, who's going to talk a little bit about what Beaverton is doing about infrastructure.
Good evening, Mayor, and to all of our viewers joining in. This is Councilor Kevin Teeter reporting from the heart of our city, the Beaverton Route. Now, the topic of infrastructure might not immediately spark your excitement. We often think of it as just concrete and pipes. However, let's dive into why it's such an essential cornerstone for our community's future. Infrastructure is the foundation upon which our community can grow. For Beaverton to be a city that is safe, sustainable, prosperous, and resilient, we have to start with solid infrastructure. Now, here's the exciting part. Beaverton is actively shaping this vision. Last year, we cut the ribbon on a new water reservoir on Cooper Mountain. This is a significant step forward to secure our water supply for future generations. And there's more good news. Funding for our innovative Purple Pipe program is complete. This initiative recycles stormwater and uses it to recharge our streams and irrigate our residential communities. This ensures that our precious drinking water is reserved for just that, drinking. We're also enhancing our streets so that walking and biking are more enjoyable modes of transportation. We've secured federal funding for the Downtown Loop project, which is a game changer set to enhance downtown accessibility for various modes of transportation. Now, each of these distinct projects interlink in pursuit of our overarching goals to make Beaverton more sustainable, more livable, and more resilient. Now, reporting from the Beaverton Round, this is Kevin Cheater. We'll send it back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Kevin. These infrastructure projects help set the table for everything else that we need to build and maintain our quality of life here. Beaverton is known for our quality neighborhoods, but at the same time, home ownership is still out of reach for a lot of Beavertonians. So to kind of get some perspective, I asked my staff to pull together some statistics for us to look at tonight. So we looked at this 2-bedroom, 2-bath house in Beaverton. This probably looks like a lot of housing in your known neighborhood. When it was built in 1963, it was sold for $12,000. Then just a few years later, in 1989, it sold for $51,000. This same house sold in Beaverton last year for $510,000. That's over 10 times what it sold for when it was originally built. I can see you out there in the audience. I know what you're thinking. Did wages keep up with this? That wasn't a joke, but I appreciate it. I think you know the answer. No, they haven't. Wages have only grown 4 times the amount in the same time this house was 10 times fold larger. How did that happen? And clearly, this is not a surprise that why so many Beavertonians are struggling to find housing. If you ask a smart person why this happened, it's about low supply and high demand, which sometimes could be a good thing. That means a lot of people want to live here. But that's also bad if you're trying to find good quality of life in Beaverton. The lack of affordability is also what leads people sometimes to fall into homelessness. We know that the average Beavertonian cannot withstand a $500 expense without going into debt or borrowing it. But we're taking this seriously. We've worked with the governor since she took office on day 1 on her monumental housing package that she's working through the House right now. We've gone to Salem and testified. We've worked with our federal delegation to help bring much needed infrastructure funds into Beaverton to make sure that we're controlling the side of housing that we control. But I do want to hear a little bit tonight from Councillor Hartmeyer-Prigg on what we're doing to address housing problems in Beaverton.
Thanks, Mayor. It's been a real whirlwind of development and housing. The city has been very purposeful in developing housing to fit the needs of our residents. We've created, or are in the process of creating, hundreds of affordable housing units. In 2023, we broke ground on our year-round shelter and will be starting construction on our senior housing this year. But really what we need is all types of housing. Currently, most of our housing development falls into 2 different types: single-family homes and large apartment complexes. But there is no reason we shouldn't be developing townhouses, condos, ADUs, tiny houses, co-ops, bungalows, duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, and maybe even a few dog houses. It won't be easy, and it'll take a thoughtful approach to get the right housing in the right neighborhoods. Housing is one of our key priorities, and we are working hard to create housing that's attainable for everyone. We want to think creatively and ensure we're approaching this with inclusivity. As a city, we're world famous for being the place to be. We have incredible, award-winning neighborhoods. We're known nationally for being a safe city. We've been named one of the coolest suburbs in America. We're nationally recognized as one of the most livable cities in the U.S. We've been listed as a Tree City USA for the last 29 years. All of that recognition starts with developing and encouraging quality housing at all levels, so everyone can thrive. Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ashley, for sneaking into my office with your dog to film that section. You have to learn to lock the doors in City Hall. The hard reality is that housing challenges are going to continue until we have the different supply of housing that our community needs. And our council is taking this on. Last week, a bunch of us went and toured Portland and how they're building ADUs and making it work. Our staff is researching across the country to see what other cities are doing. We're working with our legislature to change laws to make condo building more easier here. But it's really taking an all-hands-on approach to address this, what seems like a very simple problem, but in its totality is rather complex. But why we're working on this, and what I believe we need to do to create our more livable neighborhoods, is also work on jobs. We need those spaces, that the third space where you can be when you're not at school or when you're not at work, where you can still have these awesome walkable neighborhoods. But it's taking the city council to push us into that next iteration. I know it's a little bit awkward and weird that sometimes government talks about creating jobs, but I asked my colleague, Councillor Duggar, to go in and do a report and talk about what we're doing to bolster jobs in Beaverton.
So people say that government doesn't create jobs. This isn't exactly right. Your Beaverton city government isn't actually going from business to business creating jobs out of thin air, but we do help set the stage for job growth. To demonstrate this, let's look at where jobs come from. Jobs get created when there is a need and someone steps up to fill it. This normally happens when there is demand for a product or service and a qualified candidate that can fill the role. So how does government do this? We nurture an environment of job creation. Beaverton city government recognized that many individuals wanted to work but couldn't because they had difficulty finding affordable daycare. So the city started a pilot program to help with the creation and expansion of daycare facilities. We offered grants to daycares so that they could launch a new center or maybe upgrade and expand their current place. The city helps businesses find untapped demand. Our restaurant recruitment strategy resulted in dozens of new restaurants opening, filling unmet needs and creating new jobs. The city also helps boost the economy by creating space for business. First Street Commons created a unique gathering space, bringing in residents to enjoy congregating with their community, also spending money at local business. And we aren't only focused on for-profit business. In partnership with our local Chamber of Commerce and with funding from our federal delegation, we recently launched a brand new nonprofit incubator. The Beaverton Nonprofit Incubator will provide consultation and educational programming to build the capacity and impact of local nonprofit organizations in the region. In creating spaces to game-changing grants and programming, we're setting the table for Beaverton to be a place of economic prosperity for all.
Thanks to the tiny man in the big chair for bringing us that investigatory report. Apparently, we're really into dogs in these videos. It's good to see. When I watch that, I can't help but get excited. The city is setting the stage for all kinds of economic prosperity in our city. We did this a few years ago when we wrote and executed our restaurant strategy, which brought 26 new restaurants into downtown Beaverton. When I first ran for office 10 years ago, I would knock on people's door and say, "Where's downtown Beaverton?" And everyone would laugh because they couldn't find it. But now we have all these amazing restaurants because we were diligent and we planned for them. We took that same success that we were able to do in the restaurant strategy and did it with a childcare strategy, where we partnered with the National League of Cities and brought expertise from around the country to help us write a plan to help open more doors. And as a mom with 2 young kids, finding childcare is more expensive than that $510,000 house we looked at. We are really proud of our super low commercial vacancy rate. It's one of the lowest in the regions because people want to come and do work here. And as a city, we're creating an environment for businesses to succeed and for neighborhoods and individual families to thrive. But we're also working on public safety. We want people to feel safe, but we also want them to be safe. And I'm going to hand it over to Councillor Tivnon, who's going to talk about how we're working to keep Beaverton safe.
Good evening. Our story tonight is about justice. I want to talk about the kind of justice that we have here in Beaverton. While Beaverton is one of the safest cities in Oregon, like it or not, crime happens. When crime happens, it can result in lasting trauma. How do we minimize the trauma from crime and ensure that actual justice is served? One method is to ensure that survivors are given the care they need after a traumatic experience, as our police department does with the Victim Services Program. But what about people who commit crimes? A jail sentence can be disastrous to an individual, taking them away from family, ruining job prospects, even making it hard to find housing. The city's Be Sober initiative focuses on giving residents with DUIs an opportunity to rebuild their lives and be surrounded by a community of support.
The Be Sober program is a unique DUI treatment court. The participants have lost control with the drugs and alcohol in their lives, and they continue to drive vehicles. This program helps them to remain in the community instead of having long jail sentences. The Be Sober program is really intense. We ask them to do a lot of things, including AA meetings, check-ins with the judges. They wear an alcohol monitor anklet. They have drug testing. They go to treatment. They have to have home visits with me and the home visit team. This program is important because participants, instead of going to jail where it's not going to address their addiction issues, they continue to remain in the community. They can engage with their family. They can continue their jobs, and they can do community service and be active participants in our community.
And these interventions work. This program gives people a second chance to reclaim their lives. Officer Wilson does the on-the-ground work, ensuring that participants stay sober and safe.
Our program has a lot of successes, including we had a recent graduation. Some of the interesting things that people do in our program is, for example, they may have lost touch with their children due to their alcoholism or addiction, and now they're reunited with their families. We have had folks who have left long-time abusive relationships. We have folks who have gone from being houseless to having their own apartment. We have folks who have been promoted in careers that they never thought that they could get to that level of success in their career.
While this work is inspiring and effective, its wraparound approach to public safety does not stop with the public. We know the trauma of crime extends to the police themselves.
So we recently hired a wellness officer, and the really cool thing is she has her own comfort canine who comes and visits officers throughout the day. In our job, it can be really wearing day in and day out to deal with people going through traumatic experiences, and this is something that we can visit the canine and kind of get our own little bit of joy. It can be difficult as a police officer seeing people constantly on their worst days and dealing with really traumatic things. And the beautiful thing about this program is that we go from seeing somebody potentially on the worst day of their life, getting arrested for a DUI, to 18 months later when they're graduating from this program and they're happy and healthy, they're hugging their family members, and they're able to be so proud of what they've accomplished.
While we're doing all we can to reduce the instances of crime, we're also doing what we can to ensure better outcomes, address and reduce trauma, and keep people in the community. This is how we're keeping Beaverton the safe city we all know and love. Thank you to our Beaverton Police Department.
Thank you, Councillor Tivnon. And I want to say thank you to the Beaverton Police Department that show up every day and serve our community on their best days and on their worst days. And they do it day in and day out. When the Beatties decided to make Beaverton our daughter's hometown after we had left the Army, we chose Beaverton for a specific reason. We chose Beaverton because it was the safest city in the Pacific Northwest. And as two combat veterans, being able to feel safe in our home was a gift that Beaverton gave us so we could recover. It's why I've spent the last 10 years working on policies that instill dignity for our community, whether it's in our Be Sober court or our mental health court or any of the other things that we're doing. Safety is something incredibly important to us. But I also want to say that when we talk about safety, a lot of times we only talk about it through the lens of crime. But we know it's important for our community to feel safe. Some of the ways you feel safe is wide sidewalks, bike lanes that are clear of debris and clearly marked. And sometimes you just want to take your kids on a walk on a neighborhood and you want that sidewalk to not have any damage to it. Or you want to drive your car and have no potholes in it. So there's this idea of safety around crime. There's this idea around safety about how you're interacting with the built environment. And there's this third category that the City Council has prided ourselves on. And we actually committed to our goals, two of our goals to it. It's the idea of safety in the sense of belonging. We have two council goals that focus on this. One is an inclusive community, and the other is around community wellness. And if you're the council president, he wanted us to add the word fun into that, so we did. It's community wellness and fun. So I wanted him to do a bit of investigation on what we're doing to make Beaverton more safe and fun.
Public art, who does it and why? I'm here at the Research to get to the bottom of it. I met with Beaverton Arts Program Manager Laura Becker to talk about these art pieces that I keep finding around Beaverton. What's all the interest about public art? Am I going to feel any closer to my community by looking at a public art?
Well, I'm really glad you asked. Public art is so important to telling the story of our places and the people who live here and showcasing our cultural diversity. It also really beautifies our public spaces and lets people have a sense of identity and pride in where they live and spend time.
What kinds of stories can you tell with public art?
Well, take for example, Three Creeks One Well, which is a sculpture that's in front of City Hall. That represents the natural spaces in our city and how those spaces are connected to each other, and it tells the city's history and really forecasts our future as well.
Wow, that's deep. I always wondered about that big blue structure in front of City Hall.
And what's really cool is that there are stories to be told about all of our public artworks that are similar to that are part of our city's public art collection. And you can visit beavertonoregon.gov to find out more about all of those public artworks and where to find them. What really makes Beaverton special is that we take representation and inclusivity seriously. And that is reflected in our public art collection. We craft, fund, and create platforms for our public art in a way that showcases the entire community.
I'm not an artist. How can I be more involved and tell my story?
Well, you know, I hear that a lot from people that they don't identify as an artist, but I think that we're all innately creative. Like, we all have a creative voice. So there's ways that you can share that in the community. You can attend any of the cultural or art events that we have. You could apply for an arts grant. We have 4 different types. You could attend the Youth Arts Awards that celebrates our young creatives, or you could just apply to have a public art project of your own.
So it turns out that these statues that I see around town actually mean something and speak to the spirit of the community. Join me next time as I find out more about these art pieces.
Well, wasn't that fun? Councilor Kimmy found out a lot of rad things about Beaverton. I hope you feel inspired to go around and check out some of our public art. And hi, it's me. I'm the one that doesn't identify as an artist, but I have a daughter that does. And look at this amazing facility we're in. So as the mayor, I've learned to love art in a whole new way. Whether we're having breakfast in downtown Beaverton and checking art, or coming into one of the amazing shows that are happening here at the PRCA. When we sat down as a staff to started talking about State of the City this year, to think about what we were going to talk about. My mayor's heart really wanted to talk a lot about recharged rainwater and infrastructure and streets. And if those things are really cool to you, you probably belong on the city council. But the marquee of a good government is that the average resident should never have to think about that. You should turn your faucet on and water should come out. You should drive down the road that is not full of potholes. You should be able to walk to your mailbox and feel safe and secure in your own neighborhood. So if we take away the stuff that the Beaverton City Council finds very exciting, what's left? Well, our team wanted to recognize the very best of Beaverton. So we put a call out to the community. We asked people, what's going on in the community and what we should know about? And we were overwhelmed with the response of people that wrote into us. You know, one of the award winners tonight is a mom who lost her son to cancer, who coordinates a 5K race every single year in his honor, so people would remember him. But most importantly, that she could raise enough money so another parent doesn't have to go through what she goes through. It's a lot of our community members that is addressing our homeless community. It's our Beaverton women police officers, the ladies in blue, that are collecting clothing to restore dignity to people when they go find a new job, or maybe a kid that's going to school for the third day in the same clothes. Maybe it's a local business like Kober's that have been here for over 50 years, that are altruistic and once a month run a charity. Maybe it's someone that's helping our immigrant and refugee community, or one of the hundreds of our city staff that are doing things every single day. When we think about those people, they're the ones making Beaverton the best possible. If you're on this list, would you please stand so we can recognize you today? Before we end tonight, don't rush off. If you're on the list, we'd like to invite you up on stage afterwards to take a photo and get a certificate so we can recognize you for the true heroes that you are. I do want to take a minute to thank our staff that have spent months creating tonight's State of the City. From when you walked in, maybe you noticed the blue carpet, because it is Beaverton after all, took photos, that thought about every moment from when you walk in this door to now. And so when you leave, that you learn something about what Beaverton was doing and how we're working to be a better community. I want to take a minute to thank my family and all the family of our elected officials who pick up the slack so we can do this job. We miss a lot of bedtimes, we miss a lot of events on the weekend, but our families are the ones that rally behind us so we can do good work every single day. And of course, the Beaverton staff. Yeah, thank you. Beaverton truly is the place to be. I hear it when I travel across. Yeah, whose kid is that? That's freaking awesome. Train that kid on cue. Counselor Duggar's niece. I hear it from people when I travel across the country. And if I'm honest, I hear it whispered in other cities when I travel across Oregon. Our efforts are making Beaverton world class, and we are competing on a world stage, and we're making a better community every single day. Thank you.